Good morning and welcome back. This morning on Public Affairs on Peach, we are taking a look at child abuse and neglect and one particular program that aims to curb the violence before it even starts. Safe Care is an evidence-based program for preventing child abuse, and there are three different forms or three different programs that trainers identify and address when going into a home. We're going to read through some of them right now. The first is the health module, which targets risk factors for medical neglect. There is also home safety, where in-home trainers teach parents how to childproof a home by eliminating safety and health hazards. The final is the parent-child or the parent-infant interactions module, which targets risk factors associated with neglect and physical abuse. Avis Arkwright-Jones is here with us this morning, and she is a Safe Care senior training specialist. Thank you for being here. That's a lot. That's just a mouthful, all right? That's like science talk. Yeah. We've got viewers at home that are saying, I'm just confused. So let's talk about this health module and take me through that.
Health module. With any of our modules, the first thing you're going to always do when you go in the home is assess. So we go in, we want to first find out what that parent already knows by themselves. We'll assess them, ask them 3 questions, simple.
What kind of questions are you asking them? You're going into a home, kind of walk me through. What are the first questions you ask?
It's a scenario. We have a scenario book with 24 different types of situations. We'll ask them either something about an ER situation. It could be something that they would need to call the doctor for, or it may be something simple where they could treat at home. We're going to ask them the question. It could be your child has a runny nose and the child has been coughing for 2 or 3 days. What's the problem and what would you do? So based on their answers, we're assessing them to see if they know that this is something you can treat at home, or would they decide to just go to the ER. After we assess where they are, we take them through 6 sessions.
Right.
We're going to teach them in those 6 sessions what should they do, give them some really great health materials. They're going to get a health manual, and they're going to learn at the end how to choose the best situation for their child if they're sick or they're injured.
All right, let's talk about the home safety here, where in-home trainers are basically teaching parents how to childproof a home by eliminating the safety and health hazards. When you mean safety and health hazards, what are you talking about? Like toys all around? I'm just confused when I read that.
We have 10 categories that we focus on. It could be as simple as toys in the middle of the floor. Depending on the size of those toys or what kind of objects they are, it could be a trip hazard. We talk about things like the importance of getting rid of food that's left over in your kitchen area. If it's growing mold or bacteria, how that could be a problem for a child with respiratory issues. So we have the 10 different categories that we go over with the parent. The goal is to teach them to recognize what is a hazard, what could be potentially dangerous to their child, and then we want to teach them part 2, how to get rid of it.
All right, very good. And then there's the final, which we're calling the parent-child or the parent-infant interactions module. Walk me through this one.
This is 2-part. If it's an infant, from the time it's born up into they're not quite walking yet, we're going to do a parent-infant interaction. It's mainly to teach the parent about physical and verbal interactions and the importance of that. Sometimes parents don't think there's anything they can do with a little baby, but we want to teach them that if they begin this bond very, very early, it could benefit that child when they get older and help that relationship.
All right, so you've been dealing with these risk assessors kind of going out there, the people who are actually with the families. What's their reaction been? Because I'm looking at the statistics here. Children dying every day from child abuse or neglect. Is it getting better, or is it getting worse?
I wouldn't say that it's getting worse. I would say that it's a work in progress. We rely heavily on outside agencies. DHS is one of them. They will let us know, hey, this might be a good family for your program. Once a family has been identified, that's our opportunity to go in, and we don't say that we're teaching them per se. We want to share some really valuable information with them that can help them to do a better job with their children. If we put it that way, they're a lot more receptive instead of, putting the wall up, and then we can get in and give them information, things that they've never thought about. If they use those things with their children, more than likely they have a better outcome.
Do you think when child neglect comes, it has to do with socioeconomic issues?
I absolutely believe that's a big part of it. It's not the only reason.
Because there are parents out there, a lot of single moms, who are forced to work, 2 to 3 jobs just to provide for their family. And a lot of kids could be stuck at home unmonitored because they can't afford child care services.
Yes, they absolutely are. And a big part of that is when we come in to do Safe Care, we don't just talk about those 3 modules. We want to be someone that can come in and help them problem solve a little bit. So if they're having any issues like that, we'll try to work with them to think of some ideas. Sometimes they're just so tired, they can't think of anything else to do. So while we're going to teach them those modules, we realize that first we have to recognize where they are and help to ease that. So if we can do that by problem solving, we're going to take care of that first, and then we're going to jump into this safe care.
Have you seen with your own eyes this program work?
I absolutely have. Before I became a trainer, I was actually a home visitor. I worked maybe 12 to 15 cases, periodically, regularly actually, and the parents, you learn. If you just, we go and we ask them, just give it a try. And if they're consistent with the behavior, and we can check the consistency with our assessment forms because we're there every week and we're going to score them based on what we've taught you. I'm going to come back the next week and see how you're doing with that. We've seen the scores improve. Then it's going to be up to them, though. Once we're out of the house, they have to make that choice to actually keep using it.
And what happens when parents decide when a situation doesn't get any better, even with your advice?
They can.
Because I just feel like, and I think the public's perception is, when it comes to child neglect, it always comes down to funding. There's enough funding for investigators to go out there, and when families are investigated, these workers will go out there and they'll write down, listen, there is child neglect going on to this home. The papers get pushed to somebody else, and then, years later, a reporter goes out there, does a story, and a child has died. They look back at the history, and there has been reports of child abuse.
The one thing I think is really special about Safe Care is when we get our home visitors to go out, we're not just focusing on the 3 modules. Although those are very important, we do little things like not only problem solve, but when we go into that home, we're looking at resources. So when we go there, I always tell my home visitors, think about the community that you're in. Any resource that you think may be viable for that family, give them the information. Sometimes people just don't know. And when you know better, hopefully you can do better.
And you believe this is working in the right direction?
I believe it's working in the right direction. We've got to get it out there more, but at least we've started.
All right, very good. Avis, thank you very much for coming on here. I appreciate the firsthand experience as well. All right, what's it like to be a parent going through one of these training sessions? We're going to sit down with one who completed her in-home visits. That story is coming up.